And they're friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing, and that is Huck L. Berry. Huck, how are you? Huh? You being a good girl, yeah? Oh, you're a pretty girl. You know you're pretty, and you know you got a lot of fans. Yes, you do. Was it cold outside today, Huck? Huh? Was it? Yeah? Was it cold? Oh, I know what you're telling me. Dad, put on my sign. You gotta let my friends see him. She's got a lot of friends out there, yeah. He's a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, you're a good girl. Yeah, you're good. She likes her head scratched right there on the top. Oh, yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah. Oh, more? Okay, I'll do more. Yeah. I bet there's a lot of Great Pyrenees that like that head scratch. Oh, yeah. Now put me to sleep. Okay. Go, Brian. You go sleepy. I'll be here. You know I'll be here. Yes, sir. All right. Got a fascinating show for you. And before I get going on that, there are some people that are just out of this world fantastic. And you guys know when you read about them. And this person wrote me this, and I got to read it to you. It says, Dear Dave, I'm so sorry for the loss of your best friend. My deepest condolences go out to you and the Harvey's family. I pray you find peace and comfort in the memories you shared. Harvey was an amazing man and was loved by many. What a grand and happy meeting it must have been for him and Ben to meet again. I see him with big eagle wings. I try to capture what I see in my artist's eye. I added him to the picture of Ben in hopes to capture a beautiful reuniting of two good friends. They will have much to talk about and many grand adventures to take. The picture also told me to add an eagle. I feel eagles represent God's strength, a divine perspective, and renewal. Please take care of yourself, Dave. Please know that Harvey and Ben are more alive than ever and walk with you still. So, I've told you before that eagles were always a big thing in Ben's life. Well, Harvey was a chief. The only people that can possess eagle feathers legally are chiefs. It's true. It was very nice. In fact, that artist sent me a picture that I have up on a wall in my house of Ben in that picture right there with big eagle wings behind him. And then she added Harvey. It's quite a picture. The amount of thoughtfulness and caring that comes from this group is truly out of this world. You are greatly appreciated. So, a couple of big notices are coming, by the way. Stay on our website, missing411.com. Keep your eyes open. Things coming about the National Park movie. Things coming about the Alaska cruise, September 11th. Yes, big things are on the horizon. Now, this case is a follow-up. It's a follow-up on a man that's a super famous actor who disappeared in LA, in the mountains. His name was Julian Sands. Try to recognize the picture if you don't recognize the name. 65 years old, missing June 13th, 2023. He's married, 3 kids, son Henry, daughters Natalia and Imogen, a wife Evgenia Sitkowski. I read a lot of things about Julian this time before I talked about him. He was fiercely protective of his family. and their privacy. He was once asked how he'd like to be remembered as a dad, and he stated, as an interesting and amusing father. He gave an interview with The Guardian and was asked what place gives him the happiest feelings. And this one was important. And he said it close to a mountain summit on a glorious cold morning. Ominous words. His greatest fear? I swear I would have written exactly what he did. Inactivity, immobility, ill health, and boredom. And Julian wasn't overweight. He was in good shape. He could hike the highest mountains. And in fact, he talked about one time being so close to death at 20,000 feet on a Himalayan mountain, it scared him. Well, on July 13th, 2023, Julian left his LA Basin house for a day of hiking on Mount Baldy. Mount Baldy is just about probably the closest mountain to many LA cities. There's Mount Baldy, San Bernardino, Rancho Cucamonga, Pomona, Riverside. LA's over here. The closest city actually is Claremont, right in this area. Now, Mount Baldy, located in San Bernardino County and LA County, part of it, is less than an hour's drive from the LA area. And it has a ski area with chairlifts. And let's say you're not a skier. If you go up there, you can ride the chair up to the restaurant at the top and play in the snow and have a good lunch. Now, there's a city called Mount Baldy Village that sits at about 4,193 feet. And there's a pretty decent restaurant there that's open year-round. It's the only one in town. It's pretty good. There's Mount San Antonio. It's the treeless summit, nicknamed Mount Baldy because it's bald and because it has no trees, and it sits at 10,064 feet. Now, Mount Baldy Village is just 10 minutes north of the edge of the city of Claremont. The Mount Baldy Visitor Center, part of the LA National Forest and the U.S. Forest Service, sits there. The village itself has 95 homes and approximately 200 people. A few year-round residents there as well. Now, Julian took off alone for Mount Baldy, a place he loved, had been there many times before. When he didn't return at 7:30 p.m., it's at that time that his family called authorities and reported him missing. And they started their trip up to the mountain to see if they could find his car. Well, he was born in England in 1958. He loved climbing. Now, this is the part that's, how many people really don't work hard in life? Maybe some people will never be remembered later on. I won't be after 100 years. Well, nobody will really will remember us. Julian, they're going to remember. He did 100+ films and had credits in many other series. He did a role called John Swain, 1984, in The Killing Fields, Gothic Warlock, Arachnophobia, Leaving Las Vegas, Ocean's 13, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Smallville, and this is the one I remember. He played in a segment on Dexter. Great show. If you've never watched Dexter, it's a little far out there. But those first 2-3 years of Dexter were unbelievable. Just so you know, Dexter, he plays a forensic expert for the Miami Police Department. And he's a serial killer. But he only kills bad guys. That's kind of what the story is. It's sick, but it's interesting. And this is the one, on Julian, this is the one that really made me take a breath and stop. His final role, it was in a movie called The Last Breath. What can I say? Soon after the family called, search and rescue started. They sent a deputy up. They did find his car up there at the trailhead. It was too late, too cold, blowing snow, icy conditions. Deputies couldn't even get up very far up the trail. So the next day they called out for a full SAR. And you never see this released in association with a SAR. This is the first time I've ever seen this. And I can only imagine how bad it must have been. This is released by the U.S. Forest Service and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. The following is strongly recommended. These are things I recommend to folks every day. Do not travel alone. Bring extra food, clothing, and supplies. Be prepared for changing weather conditions. Be prepared in case you need to stay overnight. Have winter mountaineering training. Carry maps and a compass. Be wearing alpine boots, helmet, ice axe, crampons with 10 or more points. Crampons. Yeah, I have them here. I use them when I climb trails in the winter. Certain trails you need snowshoes, other trails you need crampons. And they are things that tie under your boots that have little metal spikes on them so you can stick to the ice. They work pretty good, but they're still dangerous. So that warning, pretty weird. Now from January 14th to the middle of February, means the day after Julian disappeared, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office and 12 other search and rescue groups searched non-stop for Julian. The Sheriff's Office even stated they used a special helicopter with advanced technological applications that could read a transmitting credit card. Deputies stated that the SAR was repeatedly thwarted by high winds, blowing snow, and extreme conditions. Well, how many times have I told you about these cases where they have no luck? They have no luck. Which is why, before you embark on a hike, know the weather conditions before you step on the trail. Now, a fact. This one's sobering. Mount Baldy is considered one of the most dangerous mountains in California because since 2020, there have been over 100 search and rescues on that mountain and 7 fatalities. That's ominous. I don't care what mountain you're looking at. That's very dangerous. Now, looking at the map here, this is important. So this is Mount Baldy Ski Resort over here. The Mount Baldy trailhead is near the resort. And Baldy Bowl is another trail. And this is Good Canyon. This is the old ski lift for the mountain. Doesn't operate. Kind of get the layout here. I'm going to talk to you about Baldy Bowl Trail and Good Canyon here in a bit. Now, the formal searches that went on for Julian were as long as I've ever heard. I'm being serious. It's like you're looking for a politician, a rock and roll star. He must have had some huge political pull behind these searches. Had to have. You and me, they wouldn't search 7 days, but they're going 30 for him. The San Bernardino SO released the fact that his phone was last pinged near the Baldy Bowl Trail that I just showed you. And the majority of the mountain doesn't have cell coverage. Now, June 17th, 2023, he disappeared January 13th. June 17th was the last formal search for Julian. 2 search and rescue teams went into 2 groups, stayed in those groups. One was descending from the top of Good Canyon, that canyon I was just showing you. And the other SAR team ascended from the bottom. Now, both groups never got to the point of searching the middle, regardless to the fact that they've been searching for 5 months. But this group didn't happen to search that middle area. Remember that. A week later, June 24th, 2023, a private group, just some friends of 6 hikers, took off onto the Mount Baldy area, and they were going to search for Julian. They figured based on where his phone was last pinged, there was a good chance he was down in that area somewhere. Now, hundreds of other people have already tried, but this group was in the Mount Baldy wilderness. Now, a wilderness area, in case you don't remember, you can't drive in it, can't ride a bike in it, no motorized vehicles in it. The group was in a flat section of this mountain. And they were walking along, and they first came across a boot. Just a regular boot. A few minutes later, they came across another boot. Yeah, that's odd. But I've come across boots in the middle of nowhere before. A lot of times, people will hang the boots off the back of their backpack, and the knot will break and they'll just fall. Happens. Well, then they kept walking along, and they found a couple of trekking poles. Stop right there. Now Dave would have stopped, and he would have started looking hard, and they did. And right around the poles, they found some scattered bones. Now people say, well, why would the bones be scattered? Small animals gnaw on bones. That's how they get their calcium. Very common. Now the next thing they reported was very odd, folks. They stated that they came across a pile of dark winter clothes. Not scattered, a pile of dark winter clothes. And nearby those, they found Julian's wallet, and inside was his ID. Now they stated that his wallet was in some kind of container. It wasn't explained very well, but they found it. Then they walk along, and under a nearby tree is a big rock. And on top of the rock was a cell phone. Right away I thought, was he trying to get reception? Maybe he was laying down and he put it on the rock and laid down because he was in pain. I don't know. An LA Times article had an interesting statement about hikers finding the remains. Quote, searchers said it's almost incomprehensible that someone could disappear up there for 5 months. And the remains were found at 8,400 feet in elevation. LA Times stated that it's still not clear precisely how or when Sands died. I got to say, I believe that. I don't think anybody can say when he died for sure. Very sad. So one of the searchers that found the remains had an emergency satellite communications device. And it had the ability to send text messages via SOS to a satellite. This guy sent it, and within 8 minutes, a helicopter was hovering at the scene. That's a good response, folks. It's phenomenal. But the reason that can happen is because there are so many helicopters, law enforcement-wise, flying in that LA basin at any one time, they could automatically get redirected in a second and be over that scene. That's why. Well, San Bernardino County sent a forensics team up, recovered the remains, his property. It was known that Julian was carrying a backpack and possibly other tools, but none of them were ever found, including the backpack. That's a big thing to lose, folks. San Bernardino County Search and Rescue stated that if their last search and rescue team, remember a week before that this team found it, if their last search and rescue team had gone another 600 feet, they would have found the remains. But I have a question. So this is 2 search and rescue teams. I'm guessing they had to have had cadaver dogs. Why would you go up there searching as a search and rescue team without cadaver dogs? Because the cadaver dogs should have hit on those remains within 600 feet. No problem. Now, the hikers who found the remains were 3 hours into their hike when they made this discovery. Not very far in. Now, the coroner released an interesting statement through the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. They stated that the cause of death was undetermined because of the state of the remains. I get that. If there was very little tissue left and if it was just scattered bones and some bigger bones, I get it. But, if Julian's neck bones, skull, vertebrae were broken or fractured, that could be a cause of death or major contributing factor to death. And that was never stated. There was never an explanation that came from search and rescue as to how they missed this location during the first 4 months of searching. So my question is, how can a group of non-professional searchers find his body, and as soon as a week earlier, 2 teams completely miss it? I don't get it. But I never do get this, so. Now, why were Julian's clothes in a pile? Animals don't put clothes in piles. How did that happen? Remember, clothes and shoes are always the ones that we talk about. So let's go through even the harder questions. And these are hard, especially if I would have been a relative on this, these would be the hard questions. Was Julian alive and immobilized where he was found? Did he place his phone on top of that rock in an effort to get some kind of reception? Because if he didn't, who did? There were rumors, pure rumors, that he might have been involved in an avalanche. So hold your taters. Helicopter pilots that fly in area regularly looking for somebody, they know when snow's been disturbed. And I can show you very quickly if you've never been into an area where there's been a recent avalanche. It's obvious. There was no reports of that. No reports of pilots seeing breakaway snow. Now, did he fall? Possible. Why hasn't his backpack been found? And then something I've talked about before in fatal accidents. I've been in many. I've been too many, not in many. I've been too many. And I've seen people crossing a street in tennis shoes get knocked right out of their tennis shoes. Shoes sitting right there on the ground, bodies 100 feet down there. Boots are different. Boots get laced up the leg. It is not easy to get boots off a leg. Avalanche, traffic accident, it doesn't matter. So the boots are off the foot, but both were in the same area. Now, when, let's just say a bear comes by and starts predation on the body. A bear sometimes will carry a leg a mile away, carry a skull a mile away. You'll never find it. But these were very nearby. How'd that happen? Now, here's the really tough one that I want you to pay attention to, because maybe it'll kick you in the butt to do something. If Julian had been alive under that tree and put his phone up top of the rock, there's a very good chance his life could have been saved by a personal locator beacon and him activating it. And don't you tell me it doesn't work, because the searcher that found his body used his own to call for a search and rescue helicopter. They work. There are thousands of accounts of them saving people on the water, in the mountains, you name it. I've stated this before, and I get frustrated with it. And I suppose National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, our government doesn't want to make this national statement because it may help some business. I'm related to none of these businesses. We need a national campaign advertising personal locator beacons to be used by all hikers, fishermen, backpackers, hunters, mushroom pickers, surveyors, huckleberry pickers, anyone in the outdoors. Do not hike alone. Tell people exactly where you are going when you are coming out. Carry a hard copy map and a trail guide. Always check the weather before you step out onto that trail. If you think you're going to need 2 bottles of water, take 3. If you're going to take 1 bottle of 1 candy bar, take 3. Don't take those crappy candy bars that you buy at the candy store. Those aren't going to do you any good. There are some fantastic energy bars out there. I would recommend doing your research. I've talked about them before. I have a whole case of some in my pantry. So, the story about Julian is really sad. It puzzles me to no end why he wasn't found for 5 months. I find that, just like the search and rescue person said, I find it incomprehensible. That was their words, incomprehensible. And that was somebody that had the biggest search for them anywhere I had ever known. And yet he wasn't found for 5 months. And wasn't even found by the search and rescue teams looking for him. Explain that. Friends, I've written 12 books about people missing in the wild, all titled Missing 411. Do not buy them on Amazon, eBay, etc. You'll get ripped off by resellers. Go to missing411.com. My books are there. Posters are there. Get it all right there. DVDs and Blu-rays. But something to remember. Somebody put a note up on one of the videos yesterday or the day before and said, you know, I live in an area, I've never had kindness come back to me. I've never experienced kindness. I turned around and I wrote to him, you know that area right there? That's ripe for your kindness. Maybe those people haven't ever experienced anyone being overtly nice. Friends, you can't get hurt by being nice. You can only help somebody in more ways than you can ever know. We've all experienced acts of extreme kindness. When no one expects anything in return, when nobody's watching, when nobody else knows what you're going to do, those are the time kindness means everything. Remember that. Huck says, Dad, she just looks at me. You're a good girl, Huck. I greatly appreciate you guys being here. As does Huck. And she just woke up from her nap and said, Dad, I'm awake. Huck. Hey, you awake? You awake, huh? You awake? Oh, you tired girl. Tired girl, yeah. Oh, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yes, she's a good pup. She's a good pup. You guys take care. Paulides out.